So yeah, do a lot of guests message you?
Not really. Like I feel like for me, there's like a 24-hour window.
Mhm.
So once they enter 24 hours, if they haven't messaged, they're going to be good for the
Mm.
rest of the time. They'll message me here and there, but I think once they're settled in and I do that check-in message the next day to say, how was your first night? Was everything up to your expectations? And they say, no, everything's perfect. Then they're going to be good for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and have you got any like serious messages that have,
Serious.
as in like, oh, I need to be here?
I'm trying to think. Complaint. Not really. Yeah. Trainings, yeah. Was it a bad? Ah, it wasn't giving what it needed to give.
Floor, there was earbuds on the
Not
floor.
earbuds.
Yeah. Used ones as well. Yeah.
That shows the importance of your cleaner.
Yeah.
Your cleaner's like the backbone of this business.
Is it hard to find a good cleaner?
Very hard. Like very hard. Because some of them, I don't think they get the importance that this can't be just like the cleaning standard has to be super high because naturally when people come, they have that high expectation that, okay, it's going to be spotless. It needs to be like showroom standard.
Yeah.
So even having dust anywhere is, even though in a normal house, dust might not be the end of the world, but Airbnb is like, nah, this isn't a good look. So the cleaner's like everything.
And how do you vet for a good cleaner?
I can't lie, it's like trial and error. You have to try them. Obviously, you could have recommendations. Obviously, that's always the best one. Word of mouth in terms of if someone's given someone a good review, then go for them. But typically, you just have to go through them, vet them, and it's so frustrating. So there'll be cases where I've had a cleaner, but I still have to go there after to make sure everything is as they say it is. Kind of thing. But it's all part of the process.
Would you say you have to be quite a perfectionist to do rent to rent? From like
for certain things,
like what you just said, showroom standard.
Yeah, for certain things. Like I'll be quite picnicky. I'll be like, okay, we need towels like folded up in this way. Like, but then I think once you create like a manual kind of thing for your cleaner, then all they have to do is just follow it. So you might have pictures and say, okay, I want the bed to look like this. I want the cutlery this. I want curtains open. I think if you just provide them with the standing operating procedures, then it's like they can just follow that and it just makes it easier for them, easier for you. So there should be no like, oh, I didn't know because everything was in the SOPs.
Yeah, and you use one cleaner for all your properties?
No, so because I have one in Liverpool and then one in Brixton.
Yeah.
So the Liverpool cleaner, she's amazing. She is amazing. She's so good. She's like my super cleaner. So once I got my property in Liverpool, I didn't have to go back to Liverpool until like a year later. And even that I didn't have to. It's because I was like, I should really see how this house is getting on.
Exactly.
But everything was perfect. She's so good. She's just so good. So yeah, your cleaner's so important.
I guess your cleaner is kind of like a manager in a sense.
Yeah. They're your eyes and your ears for everything, especially if you really want to systemize it and not have to be there. They're the people that will give you the real tea, give you the drop on everything that's going on. So they're so important. You really, really need them.
Because I've always thought about with the academy, do I create like a cleaning service?
I think it's a good shout. I really think it's a good shout.
But someone shut it down. They were like,
Why?
it's too stressful and stuff like that.
But then everything can be stressful. But then if you build, especially at the start, but then once you get to the point of systemization, it can be a lot easier. Like everything at the start is stressful. And then, yeah.
Because I'll say you literally only offer it to the academy members to start.
Which is good.
And then once you build that reputation, then you move out.
And your clientele base is already there, because I feel like everyone struggles finding amazing cleaners, not just like, okay, you need amazing eyes and ears. So especially as you're in the academy, you know what everyone wants. Like you're able to train your cleaners in such a way whereby you're like, this is what our clients will want. This is our offering, and you're able to tailor it. And yeah.
But I feel like a cleaning service is just a whole separate business alongside property. So it's either I do cleaning and solely focus on that.
That's true.
I don't think I can do two.
That's true. So you have to determine where the money is. But I feel like if you're a business offering a service to like a key business, like it's very, very good as well. Like you could do property, but you could also do cleaning, and I think it would be profitable as well.
So let's talk about what you actually do in property. So you do rent to rent.
Rent to rent.
So that is where you will pay a landlord guaranteed rent.
Yep.
And slap it on Airbnb and booking.com.
Yep.
And you've got how many at the moment?
6.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you say Liverpool,
and
Brixton
then
area.
the rest of them Brixton. Yeah.
How comes you didn't do any other strategy? What made you choose
I tried
rent
to
to
do the
rent?
others.
Oh,
I
really?
tried rent to HMO and I was trying that in London. I found I got a lot of rejections. Not to say
Mm,
that it's impossible, but I just felt like the feedback that I was getting is for the majority of landlords, it's a case of my properties in London. A lot of people in London cannot afford to buy a house. So renting out my property is not a problem. I don't need you to give me guaranteed rent because if like essentially I get guaranteed rent
yeah.
given the state of the market kind of thing, the rental market. So I just felt like, okay, cool, like rent to HMO would have probably been my ideal and was my initial preferred strategy. But then I was like, I'm finding that too difficult. So let me pivot
Mm,
to rent to SA. And then naturally rent to SA is less regulated in terms of like the barrier to entry is a lot lower. So I was like, okay, cool, let me just start here. So
mm.
that was the reason why I pivoted.
Did you ever think about like deal sourcing?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too. That's I feel like it's harder than people make out.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That is harder than people make out. It's
Mhm.
um yeah, because you have to find the house and then you also have to find someone. For me, I just found like, who am I selling it to that I trust enough? Because I felt like I've built all this rapport with the landlord and the estate agent.
Mm.
Slyly, they're expecting me. So when I sell it on to someone else, the landlord's like, but Nicole, it was you.
Yeah.
And that's just what I found. Like, I just found like everyone, I'm pitching it and doing the most and building rapport and laughing at their jokes and all of this. And
Mm.
then to sell it to someone else, they're kind of like, what's going on?
Mm.
It's not that's obviously I can say my business partner will take it, but it's like that isn't my business partner. I don't know them.
Exactly.
That's what I didn't like.
That's exactly what I say. I say, oh yeah, this is for my business partner.
Yeah.
But I feel like with deal selling, just quickly, a lot of people make it out like you find a deal, you find the investor,
Bish bash
and you
bosh.
and you put it together.
Yeah.
It's not the case.
Yeah.
Would you say it's probably the most time consuming strategy in terms of you need to put forward a lot of effort?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you do. And I feel like I kind of think more long term. And probably because I spoke about with like my mentor outside of like Samuel Lee's mentor, he was just kind of like, okay, cool, you can sell a deal, but that's just one off £3,000 versus you making consistent money
Mm,
from like rent to rent. So when I thought about it like that, that's another reason why I stopped deal selling. Outside of it being quite tough, I was just like, would I rather just have one £3,000 or would I rather have an asset that continually makes me money?
mm,
So that's when I just was like, okay, cool, like I'm going to focus on actually rent to rent. And also, once you sell that deal to that person, you don't like, if the landlord has more deals, that's unlikely to come back to you.
mm,
That's going to go to the person that's actually doing the work in the
mm.
house. So they paid you one £3,000 and then thereafter, the deals are most likely going to go to the person who's in the house doing the rent to rent. So for me, it just didn't really make sense long term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting. It's interesting you say that because obviously we thought to ourselves we don't want to do rent to rent
Mm,
because I feel like, especially in Samuel's community, everyone
does
you speak to
yeah.
is doing rent to rent.
Yeah.
Only the big dogs or people that have been there a long time
I
are
do.
doing something
Yeah.
else. And I was thinking to myself, do we really want to do rent to rent? Because we had doubts about it before,
Yeah.
like the whole if you have a dry period, blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. And then we just thought to ourselves, why not make buy, refurbish, refinance our end goal,
Yeah.
and then within that have deal selling,
Yeah.
potential joint ventures, and then finding one yourself and sourcing it yourself.
Yeah.
And we feel like, I know Samuel talks about the 5 C's
Yeah. Cash flow and everything.
and how, do you not think that you can make deal selling the cash flow object?
I think everything works. Like I feel like everything that we've been taught within the Seven Needs Academy is amazing. It works, but it just depends on what your preference is.
Yeah.
Some people's might be like, I'd rather just the quick 3,000 and that's them, but that just wasn't for me. And I also feel like as well, like whilst yes, everyone does rent to rent in the Samuel Lee's community, that's only because that's the point of that community. Like everyone is going to be doing the same thing because we're all thinking the same way. But obviously, where that group of people are spread out everywhere. So whilst it's like, yeah, a lot of people are doing it, there's still always space in the market, especially if you're offering something high end or something great. Like there's always room. There's always space. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no. Yeah, there's always room.
I don't think there's a right way.
Yeah, no, there's never a right or wrong way. I think it's just depending on your preference,
Mm.
your lifestyle, your end goal, what you want. Because some people might be like, no, I want to do B triple Rs by like within the next year. So yeah, doing that £3,000 deal selling would make a lot more sense, because you're like, okay, this is my main focus. Don't spend any of that money. If I sell 3 in a month, that's 9. If I sell 9K, then if I extrapolate that to the end of the year, I would have made enough money for a deposit. So it depends on your strategy and what
no,
the
exactly.
end goal is.
Because we've always told ourselves we can always do a rent to rent.
Yeah.
If we get to a point where, you know what, we want just a bit more something hands off, then we can do rent to rent.
Yeah.
With your rent to rents, how did you go about finding them?
So the first one was on Gumtree.
That's crazy.
Crazy work.
Yeah.
Crazy work. And the gag is, like, the landlord got back to me. Like, I messaged him ages ago. He only got back to me maybe like 2 weeks later. So at this point, I forgot what even property was. He's called me and just like, hey, I've got this property. I'm gonna go view it on, let's say it's a Monday. I'm gonna go view it on Wednesday. Like, is that good for you? I was like, yeah, okay. At this point, I'm even trying to ask him, oh yeah, like, could you, like, where's the house? I'm trying to ask in a roundabout way, like, what house is this? Because I don't remember you. Like, I don't know you. And he's told me, okay, it's in Liverpool. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, we've arranged a time and a date. I've hung up the phone. I'm like, cool. Then I'm like, am I gonna go from London to Liverpool on a last minute like trip, because that train ticket is gonna cost £1 billion. I don't want to drive for all that long. So am I really gonna go all that way? Because that viewings are like 10 minutes. So if he says no, that's gonna be a real painful journey back.
Yep.
So I was just like, so I called him back and I was just like, because he's based in London as well. So I was like, hi sir, like, do you mind if I come with you on this journey? And he was just like, okay, cool. Like, meet me here and then we'll go.
As in, like, in the same car? Or
in the same car. So I didn't know this man. I called him back. I'm like, hey, so can I get a ride with you? And he was just like, okay. So then I met him on the Wednesday and we've driven up. And I was like praying, saying my Hail Marys on the way, making sure that I don't get chopped up and in the motorway. But he's an amazing guy. Like, he's a very established businessman. He's so knowledgeable. So that journey felt like a mentorship session. Like, he was sharing so many gems, his experience, like sharing how he thought about business. I was like, this is amazing. So yeah, we drove up to Liverpool together, even though he even had another rent-to-rent person come to try to take it on as well. He had like long-term lets, but because we had built such a rapport, I was able to lock in. So by the time I came back, had the keys, and then I went to church on the Sunday to thank God, and then Monday went back up to Liverpool for a week to set out.
Nice. And how long did that take to go live?
Like a week. I'd say 7 days. Before I left Liverpool, I already had my first viewing, my first booking as well.
Wicked. And how much is that kind of making you roughly?
I would say this is probably my least one. I'd say 700.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still better than most. You know, some people have zero.
It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. So Liverpool's a good one. It just does what it needs to do. It's a new build. It just does what it needs to do.
So with rent to rent, it's a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
Your activity needs to be higher. What I mean by activity is calling landlords, calling agents. Yeah. What's like the biggest objection that you get with a landlord or an estate agent? I guess they'll be different because agents are a bit more.
Yeah, they're a bit difficult. So I don't really use agents. I've never had any luck with them. Not that I tried very hard.
And why is that you don't use agents, just for the people to know?
Yeah, because I feel like there's a bit of conflict of interest in a sense of, if I take so I went to a landlord, an estate agent not too long ago, and he explained that if I give it to you, like, I've lost for 3 years. I've lost my commission for 3 years. And I was just like, yeah, realistically, I can't. I hear why you don't want to give it to us. So I think estate agents, there's like conflict of interest. Like, there's a barrier there. So I don't really bother with estate agents. But landlords, yeah, they're like, I just think it's just a numbers game. Like, naturally rejections are high, but then eventually someone will say yes. And also when you're making that offer, it's about understanding your landlord's pain points. So if your landlord's just like, so one of my landlords, like, he's like a developer, so he has other projects. So my rent for X amount is absolutely nothing to him. So this is kind of like lightening the load for him. So I feel like if you're able to spin your offer, like, obviously you say the guaranteed rent, but you have to say guaranteed rent whilst you're focusing on your developments. Now you're making it more personable to him. He can be like, oh, you know what? She's actually right. Like, I don't really care about this. I want to actually think about bigger picture stuff. So if you're able to let them know how you can add value, everything's about adding value. And then people are like more likely to say yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think what you said, understanding their pain points is why we do rent to rent.
Exactly.
I've seen so many people online say, you're abusing the landlord. They just hate the strategy. They just hate it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But they don't understand the value that you're providing.
Exactly.
They just think you're making more money because you're putting it on Airbnb and charging a nightly rate.
Exactly.
But no, if I'm someone that is gonna not have to care about the property, go to view it, and I'm
Yeah.
getting the money that I would get if I was to rent it anyway,
Yeah,
3 grand or
exactly.
whatever,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Exactly. And the thing is, people think that like we're like trying to, I don't know, rip the landlord off, but we're
Mm,
not, because if you think about it, if that landlord doesn't manage it, he has to pay management fee. If that landlord has any issues, he has to pay maintenance. We also have to account that time. Fair enough, he might not have a wage or hourly rate. His time accounts for something.
mm,
So even us offering a lower rent, it's probably even better than he would have got if we actually itemized everything that he would have had to pay had he just rented it out himself. So everyone just needs to back off because we're
mm,
helping the landlord. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. We were speaking downstairs about so you've been doing rent to rents for 2 years.
Like a year and like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I started last year
You
September.
said the first year is all about, do you say struggle?
Yeah, it's a struggle. Like I
Mm,
feel like you're just trying to make it make sense.
just trying to breathe.
Just trying to breathe. Like, yeah, like treading water,
Yeah.
trying to breathe. It's a lot, like a lot of new skills. Naturally, school doesn't really teach you for entrepreneurship. So you're having to figure out a lot yourself.
Mm,
Like make sure you have the right accountant, make sure you have the right team, systemize it. But then I feel like God willing, moving forward now, I'm just trying to like iron out any efficiencies and
mhm.
then actually like systemize it like pro max, make sure like I don't need to be around at
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then like continue scaling
Okay.
thereafter.
And then for people that are doing rent to rents that are in like a similar position to you,
Yeah.
when you say iron out, what are we trying to iron out?
Oh, like iron out maybe like making like you need to be able to work on the business, not in the business.
Mm,
So for example, for a while, like I was like trying to be cheap and clean myself.
mm,
But
mm,
realistically, if you have one unit, that's fine. Because you might be cleaning maybe once every 2 weeks if you have a longer term guest. But when you have six, you can't clean every day. Like, because on any given day, you might have two
mm,
bookings that are checking out. And if one is a 4 bed and one is a 2 bed, you don't even have time. You're just one person.
mm,
So I just had to kind of let that go and actually be like, you know what, it's better use of my money to pay to get the place cleaned so I can focus on other things. Making sure your linen is always ready to go
mm.
whenever like a new guest is checking in. That systemization like that, automated messages,
Yeah.
that's super important because you just want to get to a point where if someone checks in, like automated messages are triggered all the way until they check in.
Mm,
Even up until the next day when they stay and they get that message saying, I hope everything was okay. It just allows you, it just frees up your mind for other
mm.
things. If you have to do all of those things, yeah, your business will crumble because
Yeah.
it's too much for one person.
Exactly. As I mentioned, I had Freeman, someone that does rent to
Yeah.
rents as well, and he said you need to create an operation.
Yeah.
So when you zoom out,
That's
like
what you need.
everything is,
Doing what it needs to
yeah,
do. Yeah.
exactly.
Definitely an operation.
Yeah, that's being a real
Around.
business
Yeah.
businesswoman.
Yeah.
Yes, damn right. What's besides the money? What's one thing you love about rent to rent?
Time freedom.
Mm,
I obviously money's good. Let's not act like money's not
yeah,
good. Money's
exactly.
always good. But I feel like the time element is so important. Like I feel like you're meant to live on this earth for a purpose.
Mm,
I feel like a, a lot of people might not do things because of fear, because it's against the grain, because it's
mm,
against the status quo. But I feel like when you actually, my aim, my mantra in life is create a life I love. And that looks like being able to actually wake up and do things that I love and enjoy. And I'm not saying that's the only thing I do. Of course, there's things that I hate to do sometimes,
mhm.
but just the majority of the time that I can structure my day, I can say, yeah, I'm going to work for X amount of hours. I can come meet you um, for lunch to network, and then I can go back
Exactly.
to work. Like it just that flexibility, I feel like is super
It's
important.
so important. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of my mantra as well. It's just being able to create an operation to
Yeah.
give me this freedom. But then a lot of people say, "Oh, money's the root of all evil." I'm sure we'll get onto that.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing I do want to go back to
Yeah.
is, as I mentioned outside of the pod, 16-year-old Nicole.
What's
So
she?
if you don't mind us asking, how old are you?
I'm 28.
28. You look great for
28.
28.
Thank you very much.
So, so what? 12 years ago.
Jeez, that's over a decade. That's
Yeah,
crazy work.
yeah. Where was Nicole heading? What was her goal in life? Was it property? What was she doing? Was she planning to go to uni,
This is
go down a 9 to 5 route? It makes you think, right?
yeah. I've had so many twists and turns
Mm.
in life. It's so funny. So at first I wanted to be a dentist.
Okay.
Yeah. Um yeah, GCSE 16 GCSEs, yeah. So at the school that I was at the time, any subject that you wanted to take on further, you had to get an A in it. So
Ooh, okay.
yeah, exactly. So I think I got an A in the other 3 subjects, but I didn't get an A in biology. So that meant I had to change sixth form. So at that point, that was kind of my first like knock in life, like rah, like wow, like got disqualified there, but we move. Went to my next sixth form. It was amazing. It was great.
Yep.
And yeah, I flopped. Well, I didn't. Well, no, I flopped A levels. So at this point, it was kind of like I didn't get into dentistry. I got into pharmacy instead.
Okay.
Went off into, so at this point, I think I got BCC for my A levels. Went to do pharmacy.
That's not fail, by the way.
That's not a fail. Sorry, that's not a fail. But
I got CDE, bro.
Not a fail, but given that I wanted to be a dentist, it felt like, because you needed like 3 A's.
Yeah,
for that.
exactly. Yeah.
So I was like, oh. Then I went on to do pharmacy. 2 years in, I was like, I'm not doing this.
Oh, no.
No shade to the pharmacist. My mom's a pharmacist. She's a great pharmacist. But I was just like, that's not what I wanted. It wasn't quite aligned to my skill set. Because after I did a placement, I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. So then I decided to take a gap year, redo my A levels.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went back to the drawing board. I was like, what do I actually enjoy? What did I actually like? And I always enjoyed economics.
Okay.
Like I actually loved the whole business aspect of it. It's like psychology and just everything to do with economics. I loved. So I went back to the drawing board and then did my A levels again and then went to University of Nottingham to study industrial economics. Had a time there, great time. Left with a first and then also left with a grad job within an investment bank. So that was like, yeah, we fast forwarded up until like 2020, started my grad job in an investment bank. And that was tough. That was hard. It was hard. I feel like it wasn't what I expected. Not because, I just had not the best time within the investment bank. But then at the same time, I believe everything happens for a reason because I feel like given how much I was making, if I had a great time, I wouldn't have looked at anything else. So in that time of it not being what I anticipated it to be, that's when I started looking at other revenue streams. That's when I listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad. So by the time I finished listening to that, I'm going to work mad. I'm like, what? I'm meant to be using my time as an asset and all of these things. So I think that's when my mindset shifted. Once my mindset shifted, I was like looking at everything very differently. So I just felt like, okay, cool. What can I have that's an asset that's actually going to give me money as opposed to take away money? So then that's when I just started to look into other things like property. But at the time, before reading those books or finding something, I just thought you had to buy a property, save your deposit, buy property.
Traditional way, right?
Traditional way. But then like finding strategies like rent to rent, which don't necessarily need that. I was like, okay, so I can actually do it. And then last year, that's when I decided to make the step to just pursue property full time.
Yeah. And when you were an investment banker, how much were you on, if you don't mind me asking?
So I left on 65. Yeah.
It's a big decision to make from that income. Because I know someone that's an investment banker and she's on 210.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's good.
Like, that's ridiculous.
That's good. That's good money.
But do you feel like that salary will keep you stuck in the rat race?
Yeah. But at the same time, it's what everybody wants to do.
Yeah, she likes it.
Exactly. And like it's an amazing career. Like I was around the most intelligent people. It was amazing in that sense. But I think just the role in itself just wasn't for me, which is fine. But like I feel like it depends on it just depends. But I feel like for me, the salary probably, had I increased it even more, the salary probably would have kept me stuck there. Just because it's comfortable. You're living life. Yeah, exactly. You're going on nice holidays. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
But I just wanted, again, that's why I said it's not always the money. For me, it was the time. Because that was rather long.
Yeah, I can relate to that story because I was actually in the same position as you. Like, what other side hustles can I do? And I remember doing this with my friend when we were working.
Yeah.
And I was typing in how to make extra money. It was coming up with like dog walking. I was like, nah, man, that's it.
That's what I'm thinking about.
That's what I'm thinking about. And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, literally the same story. I was like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And that's when I stumbled across Samuel Leeds, did that for a bit, and then I did Amazon FBA, and now I'm back to property. So it's interesting that Rich Dad Poor Dad was the book that shifted your mind, which I think has done it for a lot of people. Yeah, it's a very good book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you do so. Because what would you say is besides being an asset, what is the biggest lesson that you learned from that book? Or what it taught you?
It taught me, I don't know, like, I feel like that was just, because I've read many other books. I don't know if this is where I got it from, because I've read so many other personal development and finance books since then. I think the main thing that it taught me is, like, in general, all of these books is like, feel the fear and like do it anyway. Like in terms of like,
have you read that book?
No, I haven't.
That's actually a book.
It's
actually.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. That's just one of the quotes I say. But I just feel like there's so much that you desire on the other side of fear. Like, I feel like if God has given you the vision for XYZ,
Mm,
you can, not even probably, you can do it. But I feel like so many of us are stuck in, oh, what's other people gonna think? How am I gonna do it? That you just kind of like, oh, you know what, I can't be bothered. But I feel like for me, anytime I've made like a huge life decision, especially like for example, the first time I did that was when I decided to redo my A levels and go to
mm,
Nottingham. That was the best decision of my life. Like if I think of maybe how life would have been then versus how it is now, just like everything, yeah, I can't describe it. Like I'm just so grateful that I took that leap of faith.
mm,
So yeah, feel the fear, do it anyway, because everything you want is on the other side of that. And just knowing that like you can live a greater life in a sense of it doesn't have to look like potentially being stuck in the rat race. It can look the way that you've envisaged it to, but you have to
mm,
like seek after that life and take the necessary steps, read the books, network with the right people to make that happen is very much a reality. If it happens for someone else, why can it not happen for you? Yeah,
exactly. I think the main issue is something that I'm struggling as well is knowing what you really want.
true.
Like having a clear vision, a detailed vision of what you want. And yesterday I was actually just writing down
Mm.
what I actually envision. Because when people ask me, I'm like, mm,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, you can say you want to be
Yeah,
rich, but why do you want to be rich?
yeah,
How do you want to be rich? Is it through property? Is it through your 9 to 5?
yeah.
So I'm just trying to iron out that as well because it's very important.
It is. I think, and that sets the vision. Like, I like listen to to a sermon on the way here, and it was talking about like naturally in the Bible it says where there's no vision, the people perish because you don't know where you're going. You're not gonna if you don't have a vision, you'll accept anything or do anything because you're just like I want to be rich, but rich how? Rich as a drug dealer, rich as whatever. So if you don't have the exact vision on how like you want to make wealth, how you want to do that, if anything comes along your way, you'll do it, and then it will take you even further from the path. But I think it's just really important for like anyone to understand their authentic self.
Mm,
Once you understand your authentic self, then you're able to write that vision, knowing that this is actually who I am and what I want. Because I feel like a lot of people, you like, for example, I didn't want to quit investment banking because if it was a flex to be an investment banker, but
mm,
was that the best thing for me versus like the state of my mental health? Probably not.
mm,
So it's just like you need to stand in your authentic self because they no one's gonna live with whatever decision that is made outside you. It's just you. So
yeah.
just yeah, show up and just be like, no, this is what I want,
Mm.
even if people don't necessarily agree with it. Within reason. Don't do
Yeah.
anything crazy now.
Yeah,
But yeah.
exactly. And what questions like were you asking yourself to try and find that vision? I assume there was a lot of praying involved, right?
Yeah, a lot of praying. I do therapy. So
Yeah.
I've done that for a long time. So I think I'm able to kind of unpick a lot about myself every week to
Mm,
actually whittle it down to who is Nicole? What does Nicole want to do? Because, yeah, like if it was, I feel like if I didn't have therapy, because it was such a bold decision to move even from banking to this, like, not that not that people said no, but, like, they were just like, "Are you sure? Are you really, really
yeah.
sure?"
Mm,
Whereas my counselor was able to obviously, she's knows me very well now especially, but she'd be able to be like, "Okay, but what are the pros? What are the cons?" And she's able to challenge me in a healthy way in a sense of, "But remember, this is how you were feeling in
mm,
banking. Like, are you sure? Like, what why are you saying no? Why do you not want to like make that pivot?" And then I'm able to actually understand like why do I not want to make that pivot? Is it
mm,
because of them or is it because of me? And once you kind of unpick that through therapy, I was able to actually get to the point of like, no, I actually want to do this. Like I will live with the consequences of
mm,
whatever that looks like. But I need to do it for me. So yeah, therapy, first and foremost praying and like being in my word and understanding the life that God has for us. Like we're not meant to suffer. Like
mm,
within reason, naturally, no, don't take that out of context. Like there will be suffering, but I just feel like poverty, that's not what God wants for us.
mm.
I don't feel like God wants us to be poor. I'm not a preacher, but
Yeah.
that's from what I've taken from it. It's just like, no, there's abundance, there's wealth. Like where the said this of Abraham, like God will make us into a great nation. So when I say these affirmations to myself, I feel like I don't want to live a life that limits, like that is below what I've been called to be. So
Mm.
when I think about it like that, I'm like, I will take the plunge and yeah, God will be
Yeah.
with me.
So you mentioned the suffering part. How I interpret that is like if you say you're gonna do something and you don't do it,
Yeah.
like you're suffering, right?
Yeah.
If you've told yourself you're gonna call 10 landlords and you don't,
Yeah.
you're suffering
Exactly.
because your higher self would have
Done that.
done
Done
that.
what needed to be done. And I also think like sometimes your obedience to whatever it is, like for example, you being obedient to start this podcast, you
Mm,
don't even know, even if nobody watches it, there could be one person that be like, because I listened to this pod, this saved my life. It changed the trajectory of what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. Do you get it? So I feel like when you're trying to, it can be so scary, but of course it's going to be scary. It's like your purpose. Like your purpose is going to scare you sometimes, but there's like not the quiet confidence, but like that excitement to be like, wow, like this could be what my life looks like. But I feel like when you are like operating in purpose, like the fact that even just one person's life could be changed is something that's like, you know what, like that was worth it. That was worth it. If someone comes to you and is like, because of you, I didn't quit, or I changed this, or I did
Yeah.
that, you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
I never expected that. But that's what you wanted at the end of the day. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar situation like that. So I used to have an Instagram account called Man of the Minorities,
Oh,
which is
nice.
basically don't think like a majority, think like a minority, like that 5%. And obviously it's literally just a page where it's a quotes page. So I would cite things from the Bible, create my own quotes, recite other people's quotes. And I remember one guy, my sister's year, messaged me and he was like, oh, this quote today made me go to school. I wasn't going to go. And it's just like, you know what?
You see, you just were like, wow,
Something so small. Like
that's
now
so
he's probably
useful.
thinks about that quote every time. Could be his quote of the day. Do you know what I mean?
Could be the quote of his life.
Exactly.
Could be the quote that, God willing, in a couple of years when he does something great with his life, he'll be like, I remember that.
Yep.
So it's just like your obedience to the call on your life or your purpose is way bigger than you. Way bigger than you. There's people attached to that, yes, that you're gonna give.
Do you mind sharing your purpose?
Oh gosh.
Or
I feel like I
of
haven't got it in a succinct like statement.
Yeah.
But I just no, I don't even have it. Like the purpose, I feel like the purpose for my life is big. I don't know, I don't have it in a succinct statement, but for me, it's also to encourage other people to like step out in who they were called to be. Like for me, people be like, oh Nicole, how are you so fearless to do this, this, and this? But I think it's because based on me getting to know who I am, based on whose I am, I'm able to be like, okay, I can rest in this confidence that my God has got me. So when I step out into faith and step out into new seasons or step out to do a pod or to speak to a landlord, I know that God has got me. And I feel like a lot of, especially women, I feel like we kind of play ourselves down or play it small. Like just to encourage other women that like, no, you can be as great as you know you are. Like let the world see it, like you're important. So that was a bit wishy-washy. I don't have my purpose yet. Like I don't have a statement of what it is. I feel like, yeah, I don't know, it's just a knowing of that's how I feel. I feel like it's somewhere along that path.
Do you ever feel like you can fulfill your purpose?
Oh, jeez, it's loaded.
Because the whole point of this podcast is like it's endless, right?
Yeah.
So can your purpose be endless?
Yeah, your purpose is endless because there's so many people that could benefit from you that might not be able to find you. So, of course, the purpose is probably never to be like, I just want to help one person. The purpose is like, I want to help as many people as possible. So, in that sense, yeah, the purpose is endless because there's always someone else that you can help. Yeah, the purpose is endless. Yeah, I think I read a quote that said, the meaning of life is to find your purpose, and the purpose of life is to give it away. In a sense of like, you're here to like find your purpose, know what you need to do. But me offering whatever I offer is like giving myself away to other people so that they can like use that to kind of build themselves up. So yeah, the purpose is endless. The purpose is endless.
I think everyone struggles to find their purpose.
Yeah.
And they use that as an excuse to procrastinate.
Yeah.
Because I'm guilty of it. I've done it.
We all are.
Yeah.
We all are.
So I wouldn't say if you haven't found your purpose, don't not give up on your dreams.
Keep
Right.
on.
Keep
But
on.
again, not to be but the enemy doesn't want you to find your purpose. Because imagine, as you said, that quote helps somebody else. That's helping someone achieve their purpose. Who's going to help someone achieve their purpose. The enemy obviously doesn't want us to find our purpose. That's why it can be so difficult. That's why like there's like depression and things like that. Because it's like the more that your mind is messed up, the more you can't see clearly. You can't have a vision, and then you just feel like, oh, what's the point? Like, let me just either stop here or not be bothered, or just like continue to self-sabotage. So if you've not found your purpose, like please continue trying because there's a reason that you are here. Like you were made, like there's a purpose for you on this world in this world. So just continue to find it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about faith.
Yeah.
The quote is walk in faith, not by sight.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Because when I read that, I was like, whoa.
Walk in faith. I live that every day.
Yeah.
I feel like in business it's so different. I feel like when you have an employer that's going to give you a salary, as much as you're working in faith, like at the end of the day, unless your company wants a lawsuit on their hands, they're gonna
Yeah.
pay you. I feel like in business, I'm definitely walking by faith and not by sight. And that's why I rest on my like in my faith so much. And I feel like it's been such a crazy year because I've grown so much in my faith.
Mm.
Like I sometimes I don't know where the rent is gonna come from. And then by the grace of God, someone will book last minute and it gives me exactly what I need or even more so. And it's taught me not to worry. Like
Mm.
the Bible says, if I dress the flowers in beauty and splendor, like how much more will I clothe? Like I'm gonna clothe you. Like I'm gonna make sure that you're good. So I just feel like in getting to know who my father is as a provider, as a healer, as like a way maker, once I get to know him, just like when you get to know anyone,
Mm.
like the more you get to know him, you get to trust in him more because it's like you're not just like, oh God, that's just up there. Like we're building that relationship, which is nice. So in times of trouble, when I call on him, I know that he's heard me, and at the right time, he will make it happen, and he'll make it beautiful in the way that he sees fit. Not saying that it's easy because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I get
Yeah.
impatient. Sometimes like God, I don't really understand. But then I've looked back on my life and I see in so many ways how God has come through. So if I were to go back to my story, you know how I told you that my initial sixth one didn't take me.
Mhm.
That sixth form that I ended up going to, when I came to redo my A levels, they were the sixth form that allowed me to actually sit my A levels there.
Okay.
Had I never gone there at all, they wouldn't know me, or I wouldn't even know them to go
Mm.
and sit my A levels with them. Like I just feel like sometimes you can be unsure of what God is doing, but God is always working it out. And I liken it to like being like a passenger princess. Like so I love to be driven around. And I love to be driven around. And I feel like that's just like with like I get to be passenger princess in wherever God is driving me.
Yeah.
So like when you're passenger princess, you're not checking on the road. You're just doing your thing. You might even sleep, you're on your phone, you're just like you're just vibes because you know the person in the driver's seat, God willing, has got you. You're gonna land at your destination safely. They know that you want to go here, they're gonna get you there. Same
Yeah.
way with God, like as he directs you and tells you to do this and tells you to do that, I get to be passenger princess and just chill, knowing that he's gonna get me.
Mm.
I'm not saying that's easy because with God it's hard. Like sometimes you don't understand. You're seeing a crazy detour when you thought that the route was just straight ahead, but in that detour, there's pruning that goes on. There's understanding him more.
Mm.
There's resting in him more. There's just building that even more intimate, deeper connection. Um, so yeah, it's beautiful. Like my faith, I love God. So
Yeah, that was such a great perspective. I've
yeah,
never really thought of it like that.
yeah.
And how do you link that to prayer?
Link that
Like
to
your prayer to faith?
like I think prayer it's like an open, transparent conversation with God. Like I feel like sometimes you can be a bit nervous to say, God, I'm a bit disappointed about this. But it's like God already knows. Like he wants you to share that. Like God cares about us so much. He knows the number of hairs on our head. Like he's so attentive as it pertains to us. So for me, I'm just like, I try not to make it like a forced thing. I'm just like, God, I need you today. Or like, God, like be with me today. Like it doesn't need to be like, even if your prayer is 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. Like God
Mm.
just wants to hear from you. Same way, like I'm sure like sometimes your girlfriend might be like, I would have just wanted you to just check in. Like, even
Mm.
if you're busy, had you just called me, it would have been fine. I just wanted to hear your voice. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I'm not preaching now. I feel like God sometimes I just wanted you to hear from you.
Mm.
Like, like even if I don't even ask like God for anything, for me, just saying thank you. Like people go to bed having all these elaborate plans and don't wake up. People go out and then, God forbid, they get hit by a bus or
Mm.
something like that. Like your life can change in a second. So the fact that you go out in the morning and come back, for me, I'm just saying thankful. Like my heart, I feel like as well, I write in my gratitude journal
Yeah.
daily. So it's changed my perspective on life. Like
Mm.
things that you just don't even appreciate and you're so consumed about the negative stuff. Had you just taken a second to be like, wow, look at the area I live in. Wow, I have a roof over my head. I
Mm.
have a bed. I have food. Like these things are so light because we take them for granted,
Yeah.
but people don't have that. And it's
Yeah.
such a blessing. So for me, even the smallest, like, thank you, God, just is like more than enough as well. I say,
Yeah. Gratitude is something that I'm trying to work on as well
it's,
because it's so important. But like you said, it's actually really difficult to try and even just say thank you for my bed
yeah,
because it's convenient, right? It's right there.
it's right there.
It's right there.
But what I noticed is like when it's like raining and it's cold,
Mm.
and my mom was just like, yeah, can you take the bins out? I'm outside for like 10 seconds. I think of homeless people.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, where are you sleeping?
Mm.
Like, where are you sleeping? Like, where, like, and that stuff really, like, actually gets to me because it's like, wow, like, you're upset because, I don't know, you don't have your own house yet, or you're upset because things are not panning out the way that you want, but there's so much more to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
So much more.
No,
So, yeah.
exactly. So stay grateful, guys. Be grateful.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So a section of the podcast I like to do is accountability.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you what you're doing well and what you need to work on. That doesn't necessarily have to be within the business.
Yeah.
It could be practicing faith more, which I'm sure you do, which is you
Yeah.
do very well. But yeah, what is one thing Nicole needs to work on that will get her to fulfill her purpose and become the better version of herself?
Being real, I feel like reaching out to my friends more.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in a like, and I know it's like not business wise, but even my friend, I was speaking to my friend yesterday. She'll be like, "How are you, Nicole?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm fine, thank you." But yeah, the business, so I've got to do this, this, this. Like,
Mm,
oh, I'm so consumed with my business, and obviously, maybe that's fair because I'm like by myself, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I
mm,
want this to work so bad. But at the same time, like, I need to make time for things outside work. I'm very much an all or nothing person,
yeah.
which can obviously in some season that's great, but in other seasons, like friendship is important and it adds to like you like being a healthy whole person. Like you can't just focus on any one thing. Too much of anything isn't good. So
Mm,
also like reaching out to friends, spending time with them, because again, me spending time with them allows me to like see things from a different perspective, laugh, be with them, and
mhm.
build that interaction as well. So no, being real, like actually
Yeah.
linking up with my friends. My friends, yeah, they get onto me all the time.
And
I
then
love them.
what are you going to do moving forward?
So be more intentional, like actually
Okay.
link up with them, call them. Because one thing about I'm not a 5 minute kind of conversation
Oh,
girly.
you like a 3 hour tab.
Yeah, I don't have the 3 hours right now. I've got guests or new landlords to speak to, but I do need to find that balance though. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be 3 hours, but like maybe if like I'm driving somewhere, then I can call them and just
So you
catch
can
up.
call one today, right?
Yeah. Wait, am I? Yeah, I actually can. I can.
You
I
can
thought I
call
was
one
recording
today.
one today. I will.
I'm a,
I'm gonna check
I'm
in on
gonna
that.
check you on that. I'm gonna check you on that. And then what is the car doing well?
Um, what am I doing well? Oh, this is really hard.
We don't think about these things, do we?
At all,
No.
at
I asked the same
all.
thing to Rob, and Rob was like, "Rah, I don't."
And Robbie's doing a whole load of things well. It's crazy because you can see it for other people, but
Yeah.
um, I would say keeping the business alive. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, like yeah,
It's not easy.
it's not easy, not easy at all. Like I would say thinking up new strategies on how to develop the business. I would say
Mm.
that's something I'm doing well. As for execution now, that's another thing. But as of thinking up the strategies, yeah, I'd say that's something that I'm doing well in terms of
Okay.
next steps in the future.
Yeah, it's important that you ask these questions.
Yeah,
I tried to do it on like a
that's
weekly
really good.
basis. Yeah.
That's so good.
They
I
say
need to
take an
adopt that.
inventory of yourself.
I need to adopt that. That's really good.
Yeah.
Because you get so worked up in what you need to do, what you need to do, what you need. You don't even stop and smell the roses of how
Yep.
well you've done so far. So no, that's a good one.
Yep. No, it's important. Um, and it wouldn't be an endless race podcast if I didn't ask you about your failure. Or I don't really like to use the word failure.
Lesson.
Lesson. That's
Lesson.
it. Biggest lesson that you've learned. Again, doesn't have to be through property.
The biggest
It could
lesson.
be when you had to retake your A levels.
So something that didn't quite go to plan. Or what did I just take from any given lesson?
Any given
Anything.
lesson, yeah, that has helped you a lot.
Like, don't, within reason, don't care what people think about
Mm.
you. Because it's like a psychologist, Dr. Bernie Brown says it's not the critic that counts. Like everyone's gonna have something to say. Like everyone's gonna have something to say, but then I think about it like, let's say someone came into like the rent to rent sphere. Like for example, Samuel Leeds is like the guy when it comes to like
Mm.
property. Like he's not in like obviously he cares about all his students, but he's not intimidated by anyone else's success
Yeah.
because he's so gone. But you're gonna have people that are like not doing the thing and they're getting onto you for posting, they're getting onto you for starting the pod, they're getting
Mm.
onto you because you're just trying to make something of yourself. And I feel like you need to get to the point where you're gonna take that leap of faith in whatever you want to do, like even if no one watches it, even if people say something good or they don't say something good, you're gonna show up for yourself every
Mm.
day. I think once I got that into my head, once I got that into my head, I was able to kind of like move forward in what I do. Like I post myself shamelessly like every day, like in terms of business and what I'm doing, because you don't know, 10 people might hate it, but that one person might be the investor that's going to help change the trajectory of my business. So don't play it small because someone else is hating on you. Like try to like back yourself, get in the game, back yourself, and keep on showing up for yourself, regardless on what the feedback is, because yeah, it doesn't really matter what they think.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
And to piggyback off that, there's only one real person that is the biggest critic.
You yourself, yeah.
Damn
exactly.
right. So
exactly.
Fuck the haters. Straight up. Straight up. And then your biggest success. Like what's one thing Nicole is really proud of?
Can't lie, there's quite a few things.
Yeah, go ahead. List them out, man.
Quite a few things. So like when I changed degrees, so I went from BCC to AAB. That was good. Going to Nottingham, that was good. Getting my first, getting into investment banking, even though I didn't enjoy it, that was good. And then starting this business, getting 6 units. Like, yeah, there's been a lot of good things that I'm grateful for. But then again, that all came from like taking that jump, taking the risk. Like, yeah, things might not go the way you plan, but they always eventually end up working out. However, yeah, they always end up working out. They always end up working out. So those are the things.
Yeah, and then what's the end goal for Nicole?
The end goal. End goal, property wise or in general?
Let's make it property wise.
I would say I don't think I have the end goal because it's so crazy. Like if you told me last year that I would have 6 properties, I wouldn't have really believed you because it's been a rapid expansion. So I think I can tell you what I'd like in the next year, God willing, like 10 units. As it pertains to further than that, I don't know, because opportunities come to you all the time, especially when you show up for yourself, you post on the gram, post on wherever, like you don't know what could happen. So for me, yeah, maybe get to 10 rent to rent wise, but there's other projects that I'm working on the side. So we'll see what God will do in those arenas as well.
Nice. So it's not just going to be property. It's going to be
It's going to be other
revenues.
Come on, we need more than one revenue stream in this life.
We do. You can't solely just rely on one.
Exactly.
What's the time? So I asked my guests a series of questions.
Go.
They're not deep questions. It's just I like to ask them
therapy
just to see the perspective of different guests, basically. And the first one is, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? And how would you use that superpower to impact the world?
What are the options? Someone asked me this the other day. What are the options of superpowers? Like read people's mind. That one's too much. I don't want to.
I mean,
that's too much.
A lot of people have said like super strength and that, but literally, it could be anything. You could have the ability to just touch someone and they're able to see their true potential. Like that sort of
that
vibe.
one I actually would do.
Yeah. Oh, you say steal a mind?
Yeah, I have to, because that's a really good one. That is, because I feel like when people know their value, like imagine if you knew how valuable you were, like would you be fighting with someone who like didn't see yours because you know in yourself that I'm valuable? Like I feel like I feel like people don't understand how unstoppable you are when you have vision, when you have purpose. So I feel like if I could have a superpower, that would be it, because so much would change about life, like gang violence, all of these things would be definitely a lot less if people knew how valuable they were. Like if you feel like your life had meaning, your life had purpose, I'm greater than this, I'm greater than what my circumstances dictate, like life would be amazing. Like it would be great.
But then what happens if someone has negative
what?
Like negative connotations, like they want to take over the world and they think, yeah, I've got all this potential.
That one.
I mean, there's always a negative. There's always a negative.
Oh, I don't know. Hopefully there'll be enough good people to get them out. So
yeah.
They gotta go.
Yeah, no, very true, very true. The next one is, who's had a significant impact on your life and why? Biggest significant impact.
Biggest significant impact. Oh, there's been a lot of people. There's been so many people that have helped. But I think I would say my brother, Rob.
Yes.
Because he's an inspirational person, just in terms of his story. Watch that pod episode if you haven't seen it already. He's an inspirational person. And that boy, like, even though he's younger than me and him will be talking business ideas all the time. Like, he encourages me so much. He helps me business-wise. Like, I'll have a crazy idea. He'll be like, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. And that's like the kind of like cheerleader that you need in your camp. So yeah. He inspires me just by the person that he is. He's like a real man of integrity, and also just in terms of how we relate to each other. Like, love that boy bad.
Yeah, no, good.
Yeah.
On the topic of like family, how
Yeah.
was your parents in terms of the supportive side of things?
I feel like naturally they're a different generation
Mm,
to me. So there's a lot of things that they don't quite understand. But for me, I don't mind that they don't understand. Like before, I feel like back in the day, I might have been a bit upset that they didn't get it. But sometimes not everyone's gonna get the vision sometimes, and
mm,
that is fine. But I am more than grateful. As I said, I have a roof over my head.
yeah.
I have like a bed to sleep in. Like I can't complain. So for me, I just eventually, God willing, want to let the proof do the talking. And
Mm,
then but the fact that I have a roof over my head to even be able to do this, can't ask for much more.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
like
exactly.
sport would have been a bonus, but it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then what's one quote you live by? If there's many, you can cite some of them.
One quote I live by. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will like direct your path. Like I feel like that's one that I lean on because it just shows me like in everything, you might not understand it, just trust. You
Mm,
might not get it, just trust. You wanted that real bad, it didn't happen, just trust.
mm,
Like, just try not to worry about anything. Like, God has got you. Like, genuinely, everything, all of the scriptures I live by are like biblical. Like, because that is like the principle. Like,
mm,
that is your guide to life. Like, if you do life like that, the rewards are plentiful. So,
mm,
yeah, for me, it's just trusting and leaning on God.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
I want to say Rob said the exact same
No,
one.
he did not.
I'll need to double
See, we
check.
are the same person. We are the same
But I've heard that.
person.
Yeah, you might have said that.
Said that. Do you know how crazy that
Yeah, that's
is?
crazy. Yeah, that
Can't
is
wait.
crazy. Best advice for someone, let's say starting a rent to rent. What would be your biggest advice for them starting out?
Rejection is normal. Get in the game and back yourself. Um, you can do it. Um, I come with all the cheerleader stuff. Like, yeah, that's my pieces of advice.
Mm.
Like, yeah, like it's not an easy thing to do, but it's definitely possible. Just as long as your head's in the right space, you can make it happen. So I'd say that.
Especially in rent to rent, there's always going to be rejection.
Yeah, but in everything, if it's like something that you really want, there's gonna be rejection.
Mm.
Yeah, like if it was so easy, everyone would be doing it, then it wouldn't be as lucrative, then nobody would want to do it. So there's like risk and reward,
No, I
the price
agree.
to pay.
I agree very much. And then the last question for you is, what does the endless race mean to you?
The
The endless race
the
in
endless race.
terms of like life, because obviously the podcast is called the endless race.
Yeah,
What does it mean to you in terms of life?
like you're always evolving. Like it's a race that's never gonna end, but it doesn't need to be a race that's gonna like a race to death. It could be a race to like living your most beautiful purpose-filled life.
Mm.
So it's like an endless race because you're constantly evolving, you're constantly being pruned, you're constantly gonna feel like have setbacks, but you keep on pushing. So I just feel like it's just like having the ability to endure this thing we call life.
Mm.
Because it's never gonna stop until you take your last breath, but just create a life that you love along the way. That's what I feel like the endless
Mm.
race
I
means.
love that. And to add on to that, it's your own race.
It's your own race. Don't and I feel like what's so important is like what God has assigned for someone is for someone. It's not for you.
Yeah.
So they might have got it sooner, but you have things that maybe someone else wants. I got sent this video about like it was talking about insecurities and stuff, and it's just like because of your insecurities that you don't have what someone else has, you're not thinking about all the wins that you have for
Mm.
yourself, and it's just so important. Like yeah, they have that, but you have this, and this, and this, and this that someone else is looking at you saying, wow, that's amazing, but you're not appreciating it because you're looking over there. Like, as you said, it's your race.
Mm.
Run your
It's
race.
all relative, right?
It's all relative.
Like you just said, someone can be on 100 mil, but then someone could be on £1 and you could be on whatever. It's all
Exactly.
relative.
It's all relative. But I
So,
feel like being grateful for what you had leads you to getting more.
mm,
Being grateful in the season. Like, if you can be trusted with a little, then eventually you get
yeah,
trusted with a lot. So just being grateful in the
yeah,
season that you're in.
exactly. I love that. Well, Nicole, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so
If
much.
you want to let them know where they can find you.
Oh, you can find me on the gram, d.nix. That's I'm not really a social media and TikTok. Yeah, other than that, like you'll see me where you see me.
Nice one. Guys, that's been the episode of Nicole, and I will see you on the next episode. Peace.